So can you see my slides?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So to start with, assistant professorship is a position where we don't need any formal training in education. For example, like for primary and secondary, you have BTC, then B.Ed, and in some cases you have diploma courses in education. But to be an assistant professor, you don't need any such training. All you are required is that you complete your orientation course and couple of refresher courses before your next promotion. And even in those FTPs or refresher courses, what I feel is that research is something that is missing in them. So, for example, let's say I completed my master's, then my NEP, and I joined a college. So I have no exposure, and the system is not training me to do research. So somehow, probably in past few decades, we were not focusing on it. But without being trained, you are asked to do research as well. Why? Because in this new UGC regulations, you have to have your API score. If you want promotion, if you want to go for a different position in any other institute, then your academic performance index, it has to be good. And research is an essential component of all these API schemes. So, I mean, it's an irony. I mean, you are not training your teachers to do that, but then you are asking them. So the things become more, I would say, funny, because in most of these institutes, we don't have adequate infrastructure available to us. So then you will be asked to do the same thing which somebody in very prestigious colleges with good infrastructure is doing, and you will be competing with them even if you are located in a remote college. And it is none of your fault because you were selected through. So I am talking about the system we have in Uttar Pradesh. If you are selected through UP Higher Education Commission and you go to a college in a remote area, because you get it by your merit or whatever, or the seats availability in that particular advertisement. So it was none of your fault, but you will be at loss when you have to do research in those limited resources, and then you have to face competition with somebody who is doing the same in a privileged situation. So I don't want to sound negative to begin with, but this is how it is. So this first slide I have taken from this India Bioscience web portal, wherein a very beautiful article is there, and this article is talking about this conflict. So in yesterday's lecture, I guess somebody asked, like, how do we manage doing research along with our teaching commitments? So then the speaker said, politically correct message or answer was given, and I would do the same. So research is part and parcel of your teaching, but it has been emphasized more after implementation of this national education policy. But unfortunately, we have not been given enough funding for that. I mean, how to implement all the tenets of NEP 2020. The funding, everything is fine with the policy, But when it comes to the funding part, so I don't see any good sign in it. So especially it is responsibility of implementing the authorities which are responsible for its implementation. So neither university nor the state government, they are saying much about it. And why I'm saying all this is because it was not asked how to what is the best time for its implementation and how do we do it. But despite all the oddities, we at Meerut College could do few things, and that has also been done through the support we got from UP government, our state government. And these are few things which I would like to share with all of you. So no matter it has not been mentioned by all the UP Higher Education Department that there is a special funding for implementation of this NEP 2020. You have to manage everything with your available resources. But along with that, they have introduced different schemes, and which I guess are helping in smooth implementation of NEP 2020. So we at Meerut College could get funding through UP Higher Education Department for 20 different research projects. And funding amount is, I guess, around 45 lakh rupees in all. These are all minor projects. So one of the way to support implementation of NEP 20, especially the research component of it, is probably through these projects. So along with that, we do have, as specially mentioned, funding from central government through this DBT Star College scheme, and funding is huge considering that in a college setup, they they give you funds for one department 19 lakh rupees, and if you have 4-5 department in that scheme, so it comes around 100 lakh or 1 crore rupees for 3 years. And once you get into the star status, then it becomes actually more than that. So that way you have to find resources, uh, you know, from different agencies who can fund you. So directly it feels that they have implemented NEP without giving funds, but that is not true actually. That is not true. And why it is not true, I'll come to it. So next, this is very crowded slide. I wanted to avoid it, but it gives you an important message. So the message is the study was conducted, and they were trying to find the relationship between teaching and research commitments, like whether they are mutually reinforcing, whether they are conflicting, or they are neutral. So the outcome of this study is again politically correct, and it says that those teachers who are conducting active research, so their teaching commitments would be challenging. So everybody knows this is how it should be. So all of you are teachers and me too. So I'm not here to teach you anything. I'll just share my experiences, my struggles, so that if you have some suggestion, please stop me anywhere. I don't know, maybe at the end of the talk, probably you will be allowed to ask questions. This is how it is conducted.
Yes, sir. They are supposed to put their questions in the question answer section, and we discuss this at the end of the session.
in JNU, and lectures. I'm little old-fashioned that way, so I prefer chalkboard and this PPT, especially for this faculty development program lecture. Uh, it doesn't sound very good idea to me, but this is how it has to be in current scenario. So please stop. Ask a lot of questions for yourself, and I would be more happy to answer questions rather than giving this lecture. So, because in that discussion, whatever problems we have faced, we can share that with you, and that would be probably more meaningful. Another point which I wanted to highlight before I start the presentation is, in this faculty development program, for any research project, research sometimes becomes secondary. These other administrative and financial training is probably more required to run a research project, especially in a college setup, because you don't have this uh, how do you call store department, you don't have finance section. I mean, the PI is doing everything, and in past 3-4 years, I know more about PFMS than probably other research programs. So PFMS is Public Financial Management System. So any government money, it has to be, if any expenditure is to be made, it is via PFMS. So its implementation in our college, so I was handling it since beginning, and I know where we have problems, because other colleges who have this government funding from DBT or DST, they keep asking me, and I have attended a couple of workshops in order to update my skills in handling finance and other administrative issues. So anyways, so let me start again. So the conclusion was that it is challenging to do both the activities like teaching and research, but it has to be done. There is no other way, and it is helpful for you to grow as an individual. It will be helpful for your students. So no matter how tough the condition is, my suggestion is, if you are totally committed, you will find ways to do it. So NEP, it has been implemented, the National Education Policy in our university. And in this NEP, one of the important thing is that they have introduced a semester system at undergraduate level. And you all know everything about NEP, that you can take certificate, diploma, degree, or graduation research degree after 4 years. So you have facility for multiple entry and exit. But another thing is the curriculum, the syllabus of all the courses, it has been revised, and they have introduced bioinformatics. I'm talking about botany only at this point, nanotechnology, machine learning, AI, and other things in BSc botany curriculum. So exercise has been done, and they were very meticulous to introduce these things. But the challenge is, do we have enough infrastructure for all these things? Because I remember I completed my master's from the same college where I'm teaching now. In 1997, they had biotechnology course in master's, but till the point I joined the college, I didn't see enough laboratories infrastructure for conducting biotechnology practicals and all that. So that way, it becomes meaningless. Just by introducing everything, and then practically things are not happening, then it doesn't appeal to anyone. But the third component is research projects. Research projects, they have been made compulsory. So in third year, you have research project, and in fourth year, that is BSc research degree, you will get credits for this research project. So it is really a very, very big challenge, because when you are talking about research projects for BSc students, you have to look at the strength also. How many students we have in college, and if each one is doing a research project, how many research problems or topics we need to design for them. And then vocational courses are also introduced. These are skill enhancing courses, and they will be studied. These courses are to be studied in first 4 semesters, where you have to have a skill partner, and then the training and other activities would be conducted in the collaboration. So these are NEP highlights, and now the challenges. The challenges is, if you look at our intake in Meerut College, Meerut, so you see we have 480 students that would be taking admission in BSc first semester, and then with the other combination. So now you have this multidisciplinarity, but even then the students, they opt for somehow these combinations only, because in first year we felt that. So then, so in total you have around 2.5 thousand students in first semester, and then they will reach to second or third year, and you have to have a project designed for these 2,500 students. So that's a challenge, and it is more so because the fee structure is still the same, and as I already mentioned, that no special funding for implementation of NEP 2020. So this is our answer to it, actually. So for past 3-4 years, we have been doing different activities, though they were not part of the curriculum under the DBT Star College scheme. So we got funding under the strengthening component, and that was 1 crore 4 lakh rupees. Now we got sanction under the star status of 1 crore 11 lakh rupees, and it happened in last. So it started in 2018, and we have two major research projects, and these research projects I am talking about from science departments only. So I do have a DST sir project, wherein it's a collaborative. My mentor is Dr. Jitendra Thakur, DBT and IPGR, and another one is funded by UP Council of Science and Technology, wherein Dr. Veena Chaudhary is running this project from chemistry department. And this is the key, the minor research projects. We have 20 faculty members. 20 means 40, because you have one PI and a co-PI in one research project. So our 40 different faculty members, they have research project. So we started this thing even before NEP came into picture, because we were preparing for our AQAR and this NAC thing. So one of the research component, it has to be, though in colleges you have a little less to be extramural funding. So then it looks good. So this is how I guess we could solve the big issue of funding, because it completely, because these projects are meant for carrying out different activities or objectives which were defined in the project. That is true. But what we mean to say is, at least with this money and whatever objective we have in these individual projects, we can certainly design research problems for our 2,500 students when they reach in third year. So that is what I meant to say. And how do we get these fundings? So networking is the answer to it. You have to have, because if you are in a college, so let's say you are doing some research in some specialized area, so it is always an issue. Who do you talk to if you get stuck somewhere? Because in research institutions or university, you have this culture. So that's the reason why we need networking. So networking is must for colleges. Networking within the institute, these interdisciplinary research areas, let's say chemistry, botany, geology, physics, they can collaborate. We all understand that. But now, after implementation of this NEP, we need cross-discipline collaboration. So in one of the project, we are having collaboration with Department of Geography. Botany is having collaboration with Department of Geography. In another project, we have collaboration with Economics Department. And in another one, Psychology is collaborating with Department of Zoology. So that way, you have to think, because even for funding agencies, if your proposal is interdisciplinary in nature, so it appeals to them. So these are different visitors, or we have established linkages with these different labs from India and abroad, and they have helped us immensely in our proposal writing, in carrying out different experiments. Not only that, many of them, they have supported our students. So one of our students, she is going to Ohio State University for her PhD, and she was helped by one of her friends in US. So she happens to be our alumna. So she passed her BSc from Merit College, and now she is a scientist in University of California, Berkeley. So she helped actually her junior. So the student who was here in last year BSc batches. So Kirti Tyagi is her name, and she is now she got help in writing statement of purpose and other application processes, and now she is going to University of Ohio with full fellowship. That's the big thing, with full fellowship. So that way, the networking is very, very, very important. So if you have to write the proposal, if you have to carry out experiments, so at every stage, you need somebody you can talk to, because in colleges, we don't have facility for everything. So you cannot wait that I will have all the facility, then only I will do the research, because your first grant would be for a few lakh rupees in a minor project. So that way it will be too late for you to start. So my suggestion would be you find collaborators in neighboring institutes. Like in Meerut, we have 3 different ICR institutes. So ICR, CPRI, that is Central Potato Research Institute, the Central Institute for Research on Cattle, and Indian Institute of Farming System Research. We have State Agriculture University, wherein we have collaborators, they help us immensely. So this is to state the same again. So Akanksha Tyagi, our student, so in this DBT Star College team, we can invite experts from different institutes, and we invited Dr. Ritupal Shrestha to give a lecture, and our student, she could impress her with her questions, and then she got this opportunity to do her summer training. And Akanksha Tyagi qualified this UP State Summer Research Program that is run by State Center for Council for Science and Technology. So in every state you have this Council of Science and Technology, that is kind of DST counterpart at state level. So they do give money for research projects. We have applied a couple of them already in chemistry department. One faculty member is running UPCST project. And in UP, they have this program called Summer Research Fellowship Program, wherein they are giving 50,000 rupees to a student for 2 months to work in a national laboratory. So, and then another picture is showing our linkage with National Institute of Plant Genome Research. Then, as Vaishali mentioned, that I am coordinating activities under Unnat Bharat Abhiyan. So, this is a flagship program of Ministry of Education. Earlier, it was MHRD. So, they also fund some small the research projects, like if you have some technology customization. So, okay, what you have to do is you have to select 5 villages and find out what all interventions, technological interventions you can do in those villages so that it helps the villagers. So, in a bigger picture is that we have around 65,000 higher education institutes and around 6 lakh something villages. So if you can link those higher education institutes with those villages, so it will help the government in their like implementation of its policies. And many a times the problems are so local, so unless somebody from the same area take it as a challenge, you will never find solution for it. So that way we are connected with so you have to take only 5 villages, but we chose to work with 10 villages. And when we went to those villages, so these are the issues, and no matter which part of country you are from, these 5 points are relevant to everyone. So this Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, they also gives the money is not that much for technology customization or technology development, but I think they want 1 lakh rupees, 1.5 lakh rupees for technology development and 50,000 rupees for customization. So, but these programs are helping us in designing more projects, because through Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, our students, so we take our NSS students to these villages, they identify the problems, and many a times like survey thing for humanities especially. So survey means like we do have a soil testing facility in our laboratory. So you bring soil sample and then it will find out what are the concentration of different micro and macronutrient, and based on that then you can develop a soil map of that particular village or that particular region, and accordingly you can India face this, choking environment in November, December, when you have these very strong burning events. So agriculture wastes are being burnt in absence of any other economically viable alternate. And every year we face in and around Delhi. Another picture is this is sugarcane belt of Uttar Pradesh, Meerut, the city I belong to. So we have a lot of sugarcane production, and many times farmers they stage protest because they are not happy with the price, or different issues are there. And this sugarcane production leads to production of these agricultural waste, the bagasse and the dried leaves, and they are just being burnt as a fuel or whatever, and whatever carbon was sequestered by those plants that gets released back to the environment, and it leads to all different environmental problems. So one of the suggestion, it came from our student actually. So the student went to Haryana. Haryana and UP, they are bordering state, and river Yamuna is actually the only. So if you cross river Yamuna, then you have Haryana, and in Haryana you have mushroom cultivation on a very big scale, the seasonal mushroom cultivation. So for automated plant we do have in UP, but seasonal means in October, from October till February, March. So the plains we have suitable temperature for cultivation of mushrooms, and in mushroom cultivation we can use this agricultural waste as substrate. So he suggested this thing, and then we worked on it, and so our college teachers and some of our other friends from the neighborhood, they helped us in finding a person who was willing to, implement the idea if we can cultivate mushroom using agriculture waste. And the lady in one of the panel, she is 80 plus, and she was so excited about this idea. So she helped us throughout this mushroom cultivation program, and it is very, very successful. And now I will tell you, so this is what we have done before we got any funding. So we didn't have funding from Star College scheme. We didn't have funding from this Unnat Bharat Abhiyan also. So we did this, and the same student, Akanksha, she presented a poster in Anveshan. Anveshan is a student research convention that's organized by Association of Indian Universities, wherein she projected an idea if we can make biodegradable packaging material using fungal hyphae. So what you do is the agriculture waste is cross-linked by this fungal mycelium, and you actually grow the packaging material. So packaging material, normally the styrofoam, which is petroleum-based product, and it's a non-carcinogen and non-biodegradable, so it is toxic. Whereas this mushroom-based biodegradable packaging material, so in United States, the Dell computers packaging material is actually the mycobond. Mycobond they call it. So myco is the fungus, and after this you receive the bag, you can throw your packaging material in your garden, and it's very good biofertilizer. So that way she started working on this, and she was appreciated in this student research convention. And one of our friend who discussed the idea during that student research convention. He started working with IIT Delhi startup incubator, and he is actually making these packaging material on an industrial scale, and he's helping our student to get training and other things. So the same year she sent a poster, handmade poster, to Global Bioeconomy Summit, and it was appreciated there as well. So what I'm saying is very small things which we do in our classroom, and these are our students. So it is their idea. We didn't do anything in this. We just documented it. So if we can just inspire or motivate these young budding scientists, so nobody knows, how much potential they have. So then we do visits to our neighboring institutes. So Department of Genetics and Plant Breeding. So this is headed by Professor P.K. Gupta. He is an emeritus professor there, the famous P.K. Gupta. And our Department of Botany and CCS Physics and all these ICR institutes. And we have an automated plant for mushroom cultivation, and we do give them consultancy as well. So our students visit to these labs and industries and get benefit out of it. So our research projects, they were also designed when we had discussion in these visits. So we got inputs from the real stakeholders, and then we could identify what are the research gaps, and then we designed the projects. So all these activities are helping our students in their progression. So I'll skip this slide. So this is just to tell you, this is my primary focus. I mean, this is what we do in our laboratory. We have been cloning genes from bacteria, plants, and blue-green algae in our laboratory. And we clone genes, then overexpress the proteins, and then characterize the proteins. So as Dr. Vaishali, she mentioned that we have 21 students. So these 21 students are working under different mentors, but we work in a group. So this is how we run the show. And so the bigger picture is, let me tell you something about this slide. So there is a cyanobacteria called Synechococcus elongatus, and it has been used for biofuel production. The problem is it divides in 8 hours, whereas like one cell becomes 2 in 8 hours. Whereas some other bacteria we handle in laboratory are like E. coli, it says it divides in half an hour. So if you can reduce the doubling time, then it would be a big boon to the industry. So that is the bigger picture, and we are not working to do that big job. So this lab in University of Chicago, Michael Rust, so they are working on that. So we identified, so one of our friend from this lab, Dr. Gopal Patnaik, so he visited our laboratory and he talked to our student, and he said, why don't you work on it? Because in our setup, we can clone a gene, we can make recombinant protein, and we can characterize it. But we are not in a position to handle 4,000 to 5,000 genes. So with his help, we could find out through bioinformatics like what are 5-10 key genes which might help. So we are working in his collaboration, and this is how we are cloning these genes and characterizing them. Then we do have another collaboration with Dr. Dharmendra Pratap. He is in Department of Genetics and Plant Breeding at CCS University. So wherein Gemini virus, the virus that infects the crop plants. So we are trying to understand what are host factors which this virus is making use of for its own replication. So once we know those things, maybe we can design inhibitors to block that interaction, and finally it will lead to development an antiviral strategy. So for that, we have to identify what all different genes virus is interacting with. So in this process, we have identified 5, 6 different genes, and we are making recombinant proteins, and these assays are doing. So these are local problems which are happening in this neighborhood. So we are trying to address those things, and this is uh, mushroom cropping room pictures from our department. So once we could do it in this like in an open field where we have these thatch huts, and we could do it seasonally, then we had confidence. So now we are cultivating 8 different mushroom species, and some of them are really expensive. So mushroom has been incorporated along with honey in midday meal scheme, and that will help government to address this malnourishment issue in these villages. So we are actually developing a model wherein we can give them a spawn, the seed or whatever you call it, to these farmers and ready compost, and then they can sell the same to the primary school they have in the village. So that way, because mushroom, if you grow at a small scale, then economically it's not viable. So, but with this model, we are trying to push things, and let's hope that it works. These are again the spawn thing which I just mentioned, and then biocontrol agent and this. So these are pictures from these visits. So Dr. Vaishali must be the guidance picture. Dr. Pushottam Tomar, he is helping our students in understanding different microbiological processes. This is scanning electron microscopy facility at Department of Physics at CCSU. So characterization of some nanoparticles which were synthesized with the help of chemistry department faculty members. So this work was being carried out with their help. And then this is a state fish farm where students visited. Uh, yeah, I will just take 1 or 2 more minutes. So, uh, so I'm just giving you different idea about different interdisciplinary projects we are running. So, like if you look at the slide, second Dr. Kapil Kumar is from Department of Geology, and we from Botany Department, we are doing this work in collaboration, wherein DNA protein interaction studies of SSP protein. As I mentioned that we are targeting all those genes which might be responsible for reducing the doubling time. So SSP is single strand DNA binding protein. It is one of the crucial like player in that replication process. So we are studying that in collaboration with Department of Geology faculty members. And our principal, Dr. S.N. Sharma, is from plant pathology background. He studied and he was teaching in an agriculture college in Gorakhpur before he joined Meerut College as principal. So when so this happened last year only. So he came in October, and then we decided that the call was out for UP Higher Education Department research proposals. So we submitted this. So what we are doing here is, so in our area we have no sugarcane bagasse. So normally people were just using paddy straw and wheat straw for cultivation of mushrooms, but we have sugarcane bagasse. So we were just thinking if we can taste of jaggery. So, meaning that soil microbiota is actually responsible for the texture and the taste of jaggery. So, we are trying to identify soil microbiota in this project, and it might lead to this GI tagging. I mean, that's the bigger aim we have in our mind. So let's say if we could identify that these microbial species are responsible for particular taste, because in Muzaffarnagar also you have very good preparation of shakkar and gur from very few villages, and in Mandi also they fetch higher price. So we are just trying to identify what is microbial species which is there in the soil fields of those particular villages. And these are other projects which we have. So I guess I spoke enough. So these are some media coverage of our activities. And important thing is uh, the students in these pictures which you see, many of them they have got benefited and they are doing very good in their research careers. So yeah, I am done with it and I would love to take questions.